For a lot of people during the pandemic, particularly, you guys were a calming force. You guys brought something every single week that meant that there was some degree of normality, there was some degree of levity, there was this community feel, and it sucked me in. You know, it's one of those situations where I remember just kind of tuning in one week and going like, huh, I've just realized I've tuned in. I've made it a point to watch this every week for about a month, and now I'm looking forward to the next one. And that's due in no small part to the fact that Luke, I know he has his moments where he can almost push. What I've noticed about you guys is that when he gets the right little impetus, he'll try to outdo you in terms of the community to the point where you go, so that happened. Didn't know that was coming. And that's great because it shows sides of him that he doesn't necessarily want to show. But it also means that you can indulge in that little bit more of the credibility that you indulge with your articles. You're able to give your analysis. You're able to get, to kind of book things and to kind of make it. And one of the things that I know that you do as well is you do represent, not the less favorable, but certainly things that people actually say, the actual conversations people have in the bar, at work, in between their friends, where they're actually talking about sports. You represent that for a lot of people, and that was part of the reason why I think the community has become as ardent as it is for MK and for you and for Luke, was because people just resonate with you. Even if they disagree with your actual opinion, and therefore feel like they're able to broach it with you. So just on behalf of basically myself and everybody that's kind of been sucked into that, thank you, man. Like, you've made MMA really easy for me to engage with, and you've made it the fact that I can have the conversation with MMA guys about professional wrestling, being a fan of that, and boxing, a fan of that, because you give reverence to all in equal measure. I don't think it can be understated what, in a modern era, that's done for the fan base, to mean that everyone can kind of come together and just enjoy it rather than argue over it. So thank you, man.
That's the greatest compliment I can hear. I've said that about a few different things, but that's one of the greatest compliments I can hear. And I think it's rooted in this. Before I ever had a podcast, I remember it was 2014. I was walking in the woods trying to figure out what's next for my career and life. And I remember God telling me specifically, he showed me a vision of something that's going to happen. It's going to be a daily fight podcast that's going to take over people's lives and not really be about fights by the end of it. And I've held true to a lot of visions, and thankfully, in my life, even as impossible as they've sounded. I mean, a week before my kids were born, 4.5 months premature, weighing less than 2 pounds, I was told by a traveling prophet at my church that something's going to happen to your son, and to not believe what the doctors say. That's 1 week before my wife gives birth to 2 kids, 4.5 months premature. Like, there's some cosmic, amazing stuff going on there. But when I heard about this vision of this show, I even told a prominent agent about it on the phone after that. And I think he was like, okay, dude, good luck with that. You know what I mean? But I remember thinking there's a vision in me. We're going to change the way that this is done. I thought that vision was different shows at different times in my life. I was lucky to be on the Cheap Heat podcast with at ESPN, which is, one maybe the biggest pro wrestling voice, with the great Peter Rosenberg. I was done a boxing podcast for years with my absolute brother in this business, Rafe Bartholomew. And, maybe each time I thought this was the one, it turned out to be Luke Thomas. And I think the through line between those 3 names is that when you find real chemistry in this business, I mean, real chemistry, you're going to know it right away. And I've been paired with a lot of different people. And when it's real, when it's effortless, you suddenly go, okay, I got to go in this direction. That's what it was like for Luke and I when I showed up on the MMA Hour through Chuck Mindenhall, who lives not far from me in Connecticut, saying, hey, man, we'd love to have you. You should come down. And what I realized is, like, nobody challenges Luke. Nobody stands up to him. I started to quickly realize, like, what do I have to lose in encountering his analysis with a snarky joke or whatever? I quickly realized we had something there. Would I've ever thought it could be where it is now? And even though right now, technically, as we record this, we're sort of in this sort of time where the show's off air and we're figuring things out and everyone's waiting and we're waiting too. And it's this, big cluster, but it's all good. It's all going in the right direction. Everything's going to be fine. But along the way, when this vision started to become real, we went from 1 day a week to 3 days a week to damn near MK all day, nearly every day. The whole part about changing people's lives felt romantic, but not realistic. But I have to say this, and I don't say this easily as a brag, but when we have live shows, which we've been lucky to do twice in Las Vegas and had a very big one in London, that is really the pinnacle of my career. to do I guess a receiving line afterwards, where the people that took the time to fly there and drive there and whatever and buy a ticket and come, support you, and they're coming up to you literally with tears in their eyes, where I get these incredible DMs from these viewers, and they're like, I don't even agree with your personality, BC, or your jokes, or even your lifestyle, but my dad died of cancer last year, and I was considering ending my own life. And it was the consistency of your show and the fact that you guys are able to insert so much real joy, grief, disbelief, anger in each other, that it just became this relatable hook that I needed. And that was proof of concept that I didn't have this crazy vision in the middle of the woods that's just me talking to myself. That was proof of concept that this was possible. And I think why I love our documentaries so much, which are just goofball, bad SNL skits, but have a lot of real stuff. The secret sauce is no one actually knows when it's real or when it's not. And it's often very, very real. But along the way, I made a comment just, during a preamble in front of the camera, just trying to fill time of, this show, it's not about boxing and MMA or hot and cold takes or these two washed middle American dads here. It's about the ups and downs, the growth of men. And we have female viewers too, but the ups and downs and the growth of men. And I think that's ultimately the true relatable secret sauce. That, yeah, I make a good salary and I get to do this podcast from my basement or when we're lucky in a studio, but I'm really not that different from all the, and I say this with love, all the weirdos that we got watching our show day to day, week to week, right? Really not that different. Have my own blind spots, my own issues, have the same fears, trying to pay my bills, right? Trying to walk my walk with God, trying to whatever you can relate to me. I'm so blessed to be in this spot. I don't take it lightly. I love connecting with the fan base. Luke's got a little more fear, he's been burnt before. Yeah, there's some weirdos out there. But there's some lovingly amazing people that care about their lives because they care about ours, and that's that. That's a gift. I've learned over time that although I love money and keeping the lights on, I would much rather have 3,000 to 5,000 insanely passionate people who will click yes to every piece of content I put out there than having millions and having, whatever, because this is for them. Again, this is entertainment. If you're not going to listen to my podcast, you're going to listen to someone else's, or you're going to watch or something, or listen to a NPR show or whatever, but you choose me, I better take that seriously, and I better try to show my real heart. And I think that's been it's really been the greatest gift of this whole journey. I appreciate you saying that. It is real. It's life, right? We're all in this together. Here's crazy. Being with MK, we get some fun celebrity moments. I woke up to a text from Oteil Burbridge from the Dead and Company this morning, just talking about cosmic realities. Like, oh, this is my life. I'm talking to this guy on the regular basis. I text back and forth with John Gorley of Portugal the Man, one of my favorite indie bands, and one time he was like, hey, brother, we're all in this together. And now they've put that slogan on a t-shirt. And when he told me that, I was just like, we really are. I mean, we're all living this life together. Some of us think we're higher and mighty than others and have bigger roles, but like, we all don't know where we're going or how we're going to get there, but we're going. And to me, that I've been blessed to where from the beginning they said, don't change a thing. I remember walking off the set in the early MK days going, okay, I'm definitely gonna get fired for that comment, and maybe that joke's gonna have a talking to. And they were like, no, this is perfect. Keep it going. We're here, it's real, and that's what we do. And people always like, do you and Luke really hate each other? Well, no, but a lot of times, yeah. You know what I mean? I love the guy like a brother. He's maddening to me. I'm sure my choices and decisions at times are maddening to him. But I do know who he is under the surface. I do know how to get the best out of him. And I want everyone to know he knows that about me too. Anytime people laugh at this show, and if they're laughing because of something I said, I've always got to remind you that Luke is at least 100 times more funny than me off camera, and his ability on camera to deadpan and play the surly, serious guy. Half of the time he's being himself, by the way, but his ability to do that allows us to play ping pong, allows us to create fun moments. It is a two-man show. It is a beautiful thing. I don't cling too hard to it because in this business, things come and go fast, but we're 4.5 years in and we're still going. And, it's been a moment. This is not something I've done in my career. This is a thing. It might be the thing by the end of it, but it's certainly a giant thing, and I love it.
And that'll do it. I'm gonna have to because you overran. How dare you overrun your allotted time? How
It's
could
only because
you?
I'm self-involved
Unbelievable.
and I speak in circles. You know, I guess that's really the excuse. But you know, I'm kept humble because nobody in my house believes I'm a superstar, and I think that's the way life should be. You know what I mean? I'm kept very humble. Believe that.